Imagine waking up, reaching for your phone, and feeling an invisible tug that drags you into an endless stream, stealing minutes, hours, days, without you even noticing. What if I told you the app you just opened is wired to hijack your brain, and you don't even realize it's happening? The average person spends roughly 4.5 hours a day scrolling through feeds. That's more time than we spend eating, drinking, or even sleeping. Stick around, and you'll discover the hidden mechanisms that keep us glued and what you can do to break free. I still remember the night I told myself, just one more post, and before I knew it, the clock showed sunrise. That single swipe turned into an hour-long binge, and I felt both exhilarated and exhausted, like I'd been on a roller coaster that never stopped. Social media is a cultural revolution, but behind the glossy pictures and witty captions lies a design that taps into deep-seated psychological processes. In the next 10 minutes, we'll unpack the brain chemistry, the social triggers, the design tricks, and the real-world impact, plus a simple step you can try today. Let's start with what's happening inside our heads every time we swipe. Our brain's reward engine lights up like a firecracker whenever we receive a new like or comment. That tiny ding triggers a surge of dopamine, the same chemical that floods our system when we eat something sweet or hear good news. The key difference is the pattern of reinforcement. Social media delivers rewards on a variable ratio schedule. Sometimes you get a flood of likes, other times nothing at all. It's the same principle that makes slot machines so addictive. The unpredictability keeps the brain guessing, and the guesswork fuels the craving to keep scrolling. Instant gratification plays a huge role too. The moment a notification pops up, we get a tiny burst of pleasure that feels worth the seconds we spend checking it, even if those seconds add up to hours over the week. Our prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning and self-control, gets short-circuited by the ventral striatum, the region that drives habit formation. The loop is simple. See a notification, get dopamine, repeat the action, and over time the behavior becomes automatic. It's the same circuitry that evolved to keep us alive, seeking food, shelter, and mates, now hijacked by a digital platform. But the brain isn't the only player. Our social nature amplifies the pull. Likes, comments, and shares have become the new social currency. Evolutionary psychology tells us that humans are wired to seek acceptance from their tribe. Being part of a group meant safety and resources. Online, each like feels like a nod of approval from the digital tribe, reinforcing our desire to belong. That's why we keep posting, hoping for that small affirmation. At the same time, the fear of missing out, that constant anxiety that something exciting is happening somewhere else, keeps us glued to the feed, scanning for the next update. Our sense of identity also gets tangled in the web. We curate a version of ourselves that aligns with the ideal self we want to project. When the feedback we receive doesn't match that ideal, our self-esteem takes a hit, prompting us to post more, tweak our profile, and chase the next validation. It becomes a feedback loop. I post, I get likes. I post more, I get more likes. The platform feeds our innate desire to belong, turning every notification into a social reward. Now, let's look at how the platforms make it almost impossible to stop. Infinite scroll removes the natural cue that tells us when to put the phone down. There's no end point, no, you've reached the bottom sign. Just a never-ending river of content that keeps the dopamine engine humming. Autoplay videos work the same way, launching the next clip before you even have a chance to think, keeping your attention locked in. Push notifications are timed to appear during moments of low attention, during a coffee break, a commute, or right before bed, exploiting moments when our mental defenses are weakest. The algorithms behind the scenes learn what keeps us engaged, serving us content tailored to maximize that engagement. The more we engage, the more the system learns, creating a personalized echo chamber that feeds us exactly what we're most likely to interact with, reinforcing the cycle. All of these elements combine to create a perfect storm that turns casual browsing into a habit, and for many, an addiction. The next part will dive deeper into the social validation loop and how it reshapes our self-concept, and then we'll explore practical strategies to reclaim control. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. All right, Let's peel back another layer and look at how that endless loop of likes, comments, and shares actually rewires the way we see ourselves. When a post receives a burst of positive feedback, the brain registers it as a signal that the version of ourselves we chose to display is accepted, even praised, by the wider tribe. This external affirmation becomes a mirror that reflects back an image of who we are, that is heavily dependent on the digital crowd. Over time, the line between the authentic self and the curated avatar begins to blur. The more we chase that instant nod of approval, the more the internal compass starts to rely on external metrics instead of an inner sense of worth. Think about the moment you check your phone after a long day, hoping for a handful of new notifications.
If the feed lights up with a cascade of hearts and supportive comments, you experience a brief surge of confidence, a dopamine-driven lift that feels like a small victory.
But when the notifications are sparse, or worse, when a post receives a handful of critical remarks, the same circuitry triggers a dip in mood, a sense of rejection, and an urgent impulse to fix the situation. That fix often takes the form of editing the caption, adding a filter, or posting another piece of content in hopes of tipping the scales back toward approval. It becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. Post, receive feedback, adjust, post again. The platform's design turns every emotional swing into a data point that the algorithm can exploit, serving up more of what keeps you hooked. Now, let's talk about the subtle ways this loop seeps into deeper aspects of identity. When you spend hours scrolling through highlight reels of other people's lives, you're constantly comparing your behind-the-scenes reality with polished snippets of someone else's day. This perpetual comparison can erode self-esteem, making you feel that you're falling short of an impossible standard. The brain, eager to protect its sense of belonging, pushes you to present a version of yourself that aligns with the perceived norm, even if that means sacrificing authenticity. Over weeks and months, those adjustments accumulate, and the persona you project online can start to feel more real than the one you experience offline. At this point, you might be wondering, is there a way to break free from this invisible grip? Absolutely. The first step is awareness. Simply recognizing that the pull you feel is engineered, not natural, can create a mental distance. From there, you can start to rewire the habit loop by introducing new cues and rewards that aren't tied to the platform. One practical technique is to set a digital sunset each evening, a firm cutoff time after which you put the phone away and engage in a calming, offline activity. This creates a natural endpoint that the endless scroll deliberately removes. Pair that with a brief reflection journal where you jot down how you felt during the day, what moments triggered the urge to check your feed, and what you accomplished without the screen.
By recording these observations, you give yourself a tangible sense of progress that isn't measured in likes.
Another powerful tool is to curate your own feed intentionally. Unfollow accounts that consistently trigger negative emotions or that flood your timeline with content that doesn't add value.
Follow creators who inspire learning, creativity, or genuine connection, and engage with them in ways that feel meaningful rather than perfunctory.
Remember, the algorithm feeds on interaction, so by choosing to interact with content that aligns with your real interests,
you gradually steer the machine toward a healthier diet of information.
You can also experiment with micro breaks during scrolling sessions. For example, after every 5 minutes of passive scrolling, pause, take a few deep breaths, and ask yourself whether the content you're consuming is serving a purpose or simply filling time. If it's the latter, set a timer for a short, purposeful activity, a stretch, a water break, or a quick walk outside. This simple interruption can reset the dopamine surge and give your prefrontal cortex a chance to reassess the behavior, reducing the automatic pull to keep swiping. Social support plays a crucial role too. Share your intention to cut back with a trusted friend or family member and ask them to hold you accountable.
You might even start a small challenge together, where each person tracks screen time and reports weekly progress.
Knowing that someone else is invested in your journey adds an element of external validation that isn't tied to the platform, reinforcing the new habit in a positive way. Lastly, Consider a periodic digital detox where you deliberately step away from all social media for a set period, a weekend, a week, or even a full month, depending on what feels doable.
Use that time to reconnect with hobbies, nature, or face-to-face conversations.
When you return, you'll often find that the urgency to check notifications has diminished, and the experience of using the platforms feels more intentional rather than reflexive. All of these strategies share a common thread. They replace the fleeting, algorithm-driven rewards with intrinsic, self-affirming practices that nurture real well-being. By reshaping the cues, the routines, and the rewards, you can gradually dismantle the habit loop that keeps you tethered to an endless feed. It won't happen overnight, but each small adjustment chips away at the grip of addiction and restores agency over your attention. Before we wrap up, I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed a specific trigger that pulls you back into scrolling, even when you've set limits for yourself? What techniques have you tried, and how have they worked for you? Drop your experiences in the comments below. Your insights could help someone else break free. If you found this deep dive helpful, give the video a thumbs up and share it with anyone you think might benefit from a fresh perspective on their screen habits. And if you'd like to keep exploring the science behind everyday behaviors, consider subscribing so you don't miss future videos that unpack the hidden forces shaping our lives. Together, we can build a community that values mindful engagement over mindless scrolling.
Remember, the power to change lies in small, consistent choices. Your brain is adaptable, your habits are malleable, and you have the tools to reclaim your attention.
Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode, where we'll explore how our online interactions influence real-world relationships and what you can do to foster deeper,
more authentic connections both on and offline. Take care and stay curious.